This shape is being scaled from 0 to 100. Also, these details here enter the scene with their position and rotations animated. Then, these pieces enter and connect with each other and make these lines. These lines are burst lines. This part of the animation is made by hand. But from this part, as you see, the pieces don't match and the animator just places them in the scene. Here's one of the unmatched pieces. The zoom effect can be made using a camera or a node that the whole scene is parented to and is being scaled. Also, we have no motion blur in this scene. Alright, now for the collapsing. I think the collapse animation is made by hand, using the position and rotations. How do you suggest we collapse this scene dynamically? We can use an invisible circle that has repulsion. We put it in the center and use that to move the pieces. Here we have the letter E that pops out and is made by scaling. Then we have these rotating lines around it. The animation of this clock is made by jump. And these light shafts are some solid layers that have linear wipe with feathering on them. You can use the same effect to make an object's reflection on the ground. Just add blur to it and then add linear wipe. Let me show you how it's done. First, I make a shape. Set its color to white. Change the rectangle path by converting it to Bezier path. Now add linear wipe on top of it. Zero out the transition for now. Change the wipe angle to 0. Now increase the transition and feather. To enhance it, we reduce the opacity to 50%. This way is easier than using gradient color. Now we can duplicate it and our light shafts are ready. This was rather simple, so let's continue. As I said, the clock has a simple jump to it. We made this stem using trim pass. Make the overall shape of the stem lines. Add the trim pass, set it the start point, and then offset the end point of the trim pass. Let's try to recreate it. Make a new comp and draw a line. Remove the fill color and use a stroke instead. Now add trim pass. Make it a dashed line. Increase the dash number. Round the caps, and then offset it. Using this plus and minus buttons, you can add or remove the dashes. To make it even better, you can use linear wipe in the end. You can achieve the same effect using its opacity, since it will change the opacity of the whole shape. But when you use linear wipe, after a certain point the opacity will change. Let's continue. Making the fan is rather easy. The heat haze on top of the heater is the same as the steam lines. The animation of the paper on the fan can also be made using pen puppet or using rotation and wave warp effect. This video is a good example of how materials and animation can make your final work shine and stand out, because the effects and techniques are pretty easy. Try to have a good taste in your artistic style. How about this scene? How do you think it was made? We do have a track mat, but how it was animated? Let's try to recreate it. I make a shape here, remove the fill, add a stroke and then round it. Also reduce its size. Duplicate it a bunch of times. I make 60 copy out of it. Now make a new solid. Resize and reposition the new solid layer. Now, from the Motion Boutique menu, add the pastiche effect. Now, pre-comp the solid and our 60 shapes and then name it lines. Set it the following way: position to organic, scale to ignore, rotation to random and opacity to ignore 2. Then click on Create. Now, using the motion tools, set the anchor point of all shapes to their center. And click on Create again. Now all of our lines have been recreated. Reduce the opacity by around 50%. Change its color too. And now move them beneath the reference layer. Draw a line here. Give it a stroke and round it. Rename it to middle line. Set the anchor point to its center. Now let's move on to the bricks. They are the very same with just some differences. Make the whole shape in one layer. Now round all the strokes. Duplicate it. Flip it horizontally and put it in the right position. Duplicate the bricks and put them in different places. Also flip them if you need to. Very good, we finished the wall. Now pre-comp it and give it a name. Then reduce the opacity to 50%. The wall is now finished. You can make the shape of the can by yourself. I won't try to make it to save time. Instead, let's focus on the cream. Create a new shape. When you're making an organic shape, it should always be soft, so make sure to use the handles. For example, if you make a point like this, your next point won't be correct. Give it a fill color. Then add a thick stroke. Put the stroke under the fill layer. I increased the stroke size to 12. Then draw these extra lines inside the foam. Round the stroke and draw the next line. We can't use dashed line for it because setting the dashed line will be long and we probably won't get our desired results. Next is this one. Next is this one. This one should be rounded as well. Alright, we're almost there. Increase the opacity. Create a new solid and call it matte. Set the color to black. Move it here and set it to alpha invert mode. Now for this line. Duplicate the middle line and put it here. Shorten it a little. Adjust it like this. Then use pin puppet on the foam. Do it like me. Use pin plus. Pin plus creates a null for each pin and then parents the pin to that null. Let me adjust the shape a little. Now we animate the nulls like this. I'll use position for it. We now have a problem. These are the residue of our shape's stroke. How do we fix it? If I choose my puppet and select its mesh, you can see what's causing this problem. You see, I moved the mesh to its original position. How do we make our mesh to follow its borders? We can use the expansion for it. We need to make it again. Delete the puppet and set the pins with our new settings. Reduce the expansion until it's fully on the borders. Now make the puppet pins again. Also, delete these nulls. Select the new puppet and use Pin Plus. Now start animating the nulls. Go 10 frames backwards and move these nulls to here. Then use Excite on it. But why? Solo the video layer and watch it again. It comes up from the below, goes up and then goes down again. Offset the nulls keyframes so they don't move together. Then add Excite to all of them. The amount of Excite is too much. There is something else we can do. We need to do something so that all of these nulls change their bounces using only one parameter. To do that, copy this expression. Then delete the effect of all other nulls. Paste the first expression on the others. Then if we change anything in the first expression, the other will change automatically. This happens because we copied the first expressions on the other nulls. When we used Excite on this layer, we added the expression on its position. In this expression, the amplitude or the frequency is equal to position bounce. Meaning that our expression varies when we parent it to a slider. In other words, the numbers in this expression are being controlled by these sliders over here, but instead of entering the numbers directly, they are linked to these effects. Now if we change the number in this panel, the number in the expression will change as well. This way, it's much easier to change the numbers. Now all of the positions have been parented to the position overshoot slider in the null 10 layer. The movement of all nulls are now linked to this one. Let's check it out. I made a mistake here. Fix it, I'll delete everything and do it again. Add Excite to this position. Then do the parenting like the video. Do the same thing for the bounce. Alright, next. Copy this effect on the other nulls. Now copy the expression as well. We had 4 nulls, then we made excite for 3 of them, and then we parented the bounce, overshoot, and friction values to the first layer. Now we have 3 layers and 3 effects, which all of them are parented to the first layer. For example, if I zero up the effect values in the first layers, the nulls won't move. Check it out. Now, if I change the values in our first null, all of our nulls will change as well. So, open the position and its graph to check it out. This is our motion. Now to set it right. First, increase the friction and check the results. Set the bounce to 20. Now we have 2 bounces. Looks good. Let's increase the bounce to 30. "30 is too much, so I lowered the bounce and friction. Let's check it out.
Or insulation. Ventilation or insulation.
I think it looks good enough.
Or insulation. Ventilation or insulation.
Let's try to make the spray can. To make it easier, first turn it a bit. You can use the ruler to set it straight. Convert the ellipse to a Bezier path and then edit its points. Convert the second shape. Duplicate it and move it up. Convert this layer to a Bezier path, then edit its points. Now round the joints. Making this shape in Illustrator is much easier than doing it in After Effects, since the Illustrator gives you much better tools for drawing the shapes. But let's try to fix it in the After Effects. To fix it, remove the stroke. Now let's bend it using the Pen Puppet tool. Add a point on tip and another one on the bottom.